What is going on, guys? How are you doing today? I'm doing fine. I'm gonna do my video walking. I'm gonna be pacing back and forth. I just wanted to be outside today, even though it's kind of rainy and a little bit cool. I just felt like it was a better atmosphere. I didn't want to be stuck inside and, like try and get all my thoughts and feelings out with distractions. Although there's going to be distractions with the crows and the birds and all that stuff, because it is springtime, so there will be that. But yeah, I'm going to go on a bit of a, I'm not going to call it a rant, although it is kind of a rant, but it's basically thoughts that I've had about dating at my age, when you're over 60. Actually, when you're really over 50 is probably when it applies the most. But 60 and over, dating, I don't even know what it looks like. It's been a long time since I've had like a real date, where you go and pick some woman up and, like back in the old days when I was growing up, typically you would plan, well, strike that. So back in the day, you would exchange numbers. I mean, things have changed a lot, but you would exchange numbers at some point where you met out in public. That was relatively easy to do. Get on the phone with the landline and you guys would talk. And you might have 2 or 3 conversations in the course of a week or two. And when you find out that you really get along and that you have a lot in common, then you plan a date. And it could be sooner than that. You can get on the phone for an hour or two and decide, that week you're going to go out on a date. And then typically you plan the date, usually going to be dinner and or a movie. And you plan the date, you plan the time, and then you go and pick her up. Like you drive over to her house and pick her up and open the car door and she gets in, and it's like that was normal back in the day. Nowadays the dating, I don't even know what that is. I can't get a phone number. You go on the dating sites and they just want to do this teletype stuff, back and forth, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. What you up to today? Oh, just hanging out. Back and forth. In World War II, and out in the Pacific Ocean, and the Japanese and the American, and so they would teletype. Because it's the only form of communication they had. Remember, they didn't have cell phones back in the 1940s. So they would teletype. We're being bombed. Teletype. And then it would come out on the other end, and they're like, oh crap, they need help. Let's send out some battleships and all that stuff. 1940s. So it is now 80 years later, and what are we doing? Teletype. Hi, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing fine. Then not only that, but some people aren't on point. So you send out a message on one of these sites on a Tuesday, and maybe by Thursday or Friday or the weekend or a week later, you get a response. Or a month later. Hey, sorry, it's taken so long. I'm not on here very often. If you're not on here very often, how do you expect to date? And if you're not on here very often, why are you here? Like you proactively came up with a profile and some of your best pictures that you have. That's another thing too. I got a lot of gripes about dating sites. How are you going to take a picture, especially with your avatar picture, with your main picture, with you and 2 friends? I don't know which one you are. Then I got to deep dive and find out, oh, okay, then you only have face pictures. You don't have full body pictures or whatever. I don't know. The whole thing just kind of messes me up. Then in your bio, you're like, oh, these bios are so difficult to fill out. Send me a message, or like send you a message and then you might get back to me in a week or 2 or whatever. The other thing, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of problems with dating sites. The other thing is, You know what? Let's move this forward. You know, let's just exchange numbers and let's have a talk. Oh, I'm too afraid to give you my number right now because I don't even know you. It's like, you don't know me. So you're gonna get to know me through teletype? Is that what you're expecting? I don't know what goes through a female's mind when she thinks because I know your phone number that somehow I can stalk you, that somehow I can get a hold of you, that somehow, I don't know, it's just very bizarre. Because there's a button on everybody's phone that says block. You can do it on email, you can do it on a phone, a phone number, you could do it with anything. You just block the person, move about your day. So what is the big secret of your phone number? You know, back in the day, we had a phone book. Remember the phone book? And it's like, oh, Anna Smith in Atlanta. And then I could just go through the phone book and find all the Smiths, and then find Anna, and then find your phone number. Like, it was just easy back then. So this whole idea of keeping a phone number secret, private, when you decide that the time is right, you see, when you decide, you're in control. How is that? I'm very audio, right? So for me, and visual. So for me, the number one way to get to know somebody is face to face. We're not going to go to a movie necessarily. Hello, 2-hour movie, 2.5-hour movie. How much can we talk? And then we go to dinner either before or after, and we're feeding our face. How much can we talk? Like, how much are you going to get to know somebody over dinner or movie? So I personally would prefer something kind of abstract, something like a park. You know, let's sit on a park bench and chit chat. Or we could go to Starbucks and sit outside and just have coffee and just chill and find out about each other. You know, that's, to me, is a perfect first date. So the face-to-face is number one. If we can't do face-to-face, the phone is number two. We're going to talk. And we're going to talk for hours. I don't mind. I'm a blabbermouth. The third way that we would communicate would be some texting and or voice notes, because not only on WhatsApp can you voice note, but you can do it on text. And I didn't know this until about a year ago. There's a microphone button on your phone, and you can actually send a voice note through normal text. But WhatsApp is always better for me, for my purposes, because you can send very clear videos, very clear pictures, you know, the voice notes, you know, like notification. Like, there's so many features of WhatsApp, I just prefer that over straight texting. Anyway, that's the third way to communicate. The fourth way would be just straight texting, without any voice, without any nuance, right? Because nuance matters when you say something, and how you say it, and the inflection of how everything matters in a voice that you cannot interpret through a text, or you interpret wrong. It used to be, when we were texting back in the day, I don't know if it still holds true, if your caps got locked on your phone, it meant you're yelling. So then I would text somebody in caps, and they're like, "Why are you yelling?" Like, what? So yeah, a lot of stuff is lost on just the texting alone, but that would be like fourth down the list. And then after that, email would be absolutely worst way of communicating. And then fifth down the line would be a smoke signal, you know, just send up smoke signals, or the string and the cans. You know, the soup can with the string. Communication is key in any kind of relationship. I don't care if it's work relationship, with people at work, interpersonal relationships, family, whatever it is, communication is a key. And if you're not on point with communication, I don't really see the point. And with the dating sites, the communication lags so bad. It just is a horrible setup to go nowhere, because you're not going anywhere. I've been POF. I've been on POF for well over a year. I think well over a year. And all these dating sites are basically owned by one entity anyway, and they're making a boatload of money because you can't see likes, unless you join. So you got to spend money. And the money spending wouldn't be bad if they were actually doable. The only thing I do like about POF is that once a day you can send a free message. Like, so you run across somebody's profile and you want to reach out to them, but you can't because you're not a member. But once a day they allow you to reach out. And I reach out infrequently, but when I do, crickets. So either they're not getting a notification, or they're reading the message and they decide not to respond, which is kind of weird too. It gets back to the texting thing, and it gets back to the untethering of social interaction. I just made that up. The untethering of social interaction. So I send you a text and you decide not to respond. Would you do that to me in person? Like if we were at Walmart and met at Walmart, would I say, hey, how are you doing? How's your day today? And then you just walk away? Don't even look at me, you just walk away, you just ghost me? Like, you wouldn't do that in person, so why would you do it intergalactically? Like, just because you don't know me, and just because we don't have any type of connection yet, doesn't mean that you should ignore me. At least give me the courtesy of saying, hey, I saw your message and I'm not really interested. Okay, cool. I don't know. I just, like I said, being older, I'm old-fashioned in a lot of ways, and communication used to be a thing. And nowadays, it's not so much of a thing. Nowadays, it seems like everything is contingent on, I don't know what it's contingent on. I wish I knew the mystery. I wish I had the answer of knowing what exactly the right thing to say, the right message to put out there, the right pictures to post. Like, I don't know. Like, I had a friend of mine back when I had joined. I'm like, what do you think about these pictures that I'm putting out there? Because I had one of me in a suit, and I don't generally wear a suit, but I do have that picture, and I decided to put that up there. And she said to me, no, you look like a sugar daddy. You look like you're rich. And I'm like, ooh, I don't want to come across as rich. Because, again, nuance matters. But then again, I don't want to put a picture out there that makes me look like, a rag bag. And today, I'm doing some outdoor work and stuff like that, so I have work shirt. Like, I have stains on my shirt and stuff, like, I don't care. Would I put a picture of like that out there to show that I'm poor? Conversely, to the suit picture. I don't know. At a point about 2-3 years ago, I joined a gym again for the first time in ages. And for about 6 months, I got in pretty decent shape. So I have a couple of gym pictures, and there's a lot of females out there that are like, don't show your gym pictures. Like, it looks like you're a show off, or it looks like you're, I don't know. There's this, because I can't figure out the female mind. I don't know. But if you go across their profile pictures, they're decked out, and they're doing this and all this stuff at the gym. So why is it good for you and not good for me? I feel showing my best side, right, which would be a gym picture, showing that I'm in pretty decent shape, right? I don't have a beer gut, I don't have, love handles and all that stuff, is like a plus, right? That's what I would want to see. What I typically see when I get reached out to, on the few occasions I have, is somebody that's older than me by 4 or 5 years. I remember the other day I had somebody reach out to me who, I think she was, if I'm not mistaken, she was 71. And I'm 65. And she probably weighed, my best guess is 200, maybe 220, maybe 210, somewhere around there. A little bit shorter than I am. And that's just not attractive. That's not healthy. And I don't, I'm not degrading people who maybe have a thyroid problem, or maybe they have lupus, or, there could be a lot of reasons why somebody's out of shape. But I kind of feel like that's kind of a pride thing. And I'm not a gym rat, trust me, and I'm not a health nut. Trust me, I'm nowhere near a health nut, nor am I a gym rat. But I still feel there's a certain pride that you take in everything. That you wash your car so you're not driving around a dirty car, that your house is in order, that you're not a pig, you don't have trash around your house and all that. All of that stuff you take care of, but then yourself, you don't. Anyway, having said that, I would not really get along with most people here in my area that are older than me, because they're very old-fashioned. They go to bed at 8 o'clock, they wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. They have breakfast by 6, they have lunch by 12, they have dinner by 5, and they're back in bed by 7 or 8. That's not me. And that's what I find that older people around here are in a habit of doing. I don't act my age. Typically, a lot of times I'm up until midnight. Last night I was up until 1:30 and not getting up until 9. I like different types of music. Around here, typically it's country music. That's kind of the mode. And when I went to her profile, sure enough, it said country music, Garth Brooks and this and that and all these different country artists, which I'm not into. I'm coming to the table with Led Zeppelin and Bob Marley and Frank Sinatra and Tupac, and I'm very eclectic. My musical tastes are all over the board. So I couldn't really get along with her, even in the music scene, let alone, can you ride a bike with me? Can you go roller skating? Can we go to the roller rink this weekend? I don't think so. So all of that is why I wasn't really interested in her. Just some of the stuff she wrote and all that stuff. Having said that, I did respond back and I said, hey, thanks for reaching out to me. I appreciate it a lot, but yeah, I'm not really interested, but good luck on your journey. I just reached out to her to let her know that I wasn't interested. I don't know. I don't really know what it takes. I have in the past, going back when I was really on the move to try and get somebody into my life and have even a friend, even if we don't become lovers or soulmates or whatever the case is, even reaching out to somebody and, you know what, we're not really compatible as far as a relationship goes, but hey, we can be friends. You want to go to the park? You want to go to a concert? You want to go to a movie? You want to go on a beach trip? Road trip, something? I can't even get that. Back about 3 years ago when I kind of set out to do something, to have somebody in my life like that, and I would reach out to somebody live and in person, at Home Depot, Walmart, wherever I'm out and about, gas station. And I would walk up to somebody and I would start a conversation, hey, you look really nice, or whatever the case is. However, I started the conversation. And one thing would lead to another, and we would have maybe 20, 30 minutes of conversation. I remember one time I was at Walmart, and this literally happened. I stopped this woman in the aisle, and we ended up talking. And I forget the subject matter, but we covered a lot of stuff over about probably 30 minutes. I mean, so much so that I had to stand on one side of the aisle, and she was on the other, and people were walking between us. We were kind of clogging traffic. And I gave her my number. And crickets. Got nothing back, never heard from her. That's happened a lot, live and in person, where I'm, like I said, at that place, it was a gas station or a Walmart or a grocery store, wherever I'm out and about, it's just over and over again, crickets afterward. And it could have really, really good conversation at the time. And then, I don't want to interrupt. I don't want to be too aggressive. So, I might wait a day and say, the next day, hey, it was really good meeting you yesterday. Let me know what your schedule is. Maybe we can go grab a bite or something like that. So on occasion, yes, I do reach back, but I'm usually the lead is on them. I don't want to come across as aggressive. And I don't know their schedule, and I don't know how easy it is for them to communicate or whatever the case is. So I kind of put the ball in their court. But if I don't hear from them in a day or two, then I will reach out. And then I get nothing back. And I don't even bother, I guess there's some guys who will probably pick up the phone and call them, hey, I texted you yesterday and you didn't respond or whatever. I don't want to do that. That seems, I don't know, it seems kind of rude. And so I just kind of let it go. And then I think to myself, okay, so she's not interested. But then same as I said before, why would you not then just be polite and say, yeah, it was nice meeting you too yesterday, and after giving it some thought, I've decided I really don't, want to deal with you, or I don't, I'm not really interested, or my plate's really full right now, or whatever you decide to put in there, because I prefer the truth. But if, a lie is still, an answer is an answer. And I remember an ex-friend of mine years ago said to me, when people ghost like that, no answer is an answer. I'm like, what? No answer is an answer? Yeah, when they don't answer you back, you've got your answer. I'm like, no. I've come to realize that is actually the case. No answer is an answer, which is still rude, but it's true. I just don't expect it from most people. I just assume that most people are honest and respectful and courteous and all those things that I am. I just expect that from other people. And that expectation falls short. Somebody else said to me one time, don't expect other people to do what you would do. And I'm like, ooh, that's a hard pill right there. That's a hard pill, because we all live in our own bubble and we all have expectations of others. And so when those expectations aren't met, we think there's something wrong with them without knowing anything about their life. So I have to accept that. I have to accept that reality that, yeah, no answer is an answer. But it's tough. And generally speaking, as a rule, what I said about my music taste earlier, generally speaking, I'm getting along better with younger people than I am with people my own age. Like, I'm 65, and typically when I look at a 65-year-old woman, I'm not seeing anything that attracts me right off the bat. I'm really not, to be honest. There are exceptions to that rule. There are definitely exceptions to that rule. But typically also, by the time a woman reaches 65, my age, she's already taken anyway. I am more geared toward, I guess, a woman from 40 on up. 40-ish on up. I don't mind a 20-year gap. The 20-year gap is fine. I've dealt back in the past with women younger than that, and it never seems to work out because of maturity level, because it's not that we don't have things in common, because that's a misnomer also. Well, what do you and a 30-year-old have in common? What do you and a 25-year-old have in common? I've had friends that are that age, and I have a lot in common with some people like that. But I also find that that frontal cortex is supposed to develop by the time you're 25. And a lot of times, 30, 35, 40 years old, it's not there. So I have a hard time with somebody that much younger, insofar as like a serious relationship or considering a life partner or anything like that. And then of course age difference and all that stuff matters, because I'm gone in 10, 15, 20 years, and then they're my age, so there's that too. But I would say somebody about 40-ish on up to my age, about 65, probably 60, 40 to 60 would be about right. And with any luck, a little bit more, how would I put this? Less, what's the word I'm looking for? Strict, not strict. What's the word that would apply? For lack of a, set in their ways. Somebody less set in their ways. Somebody that is not like my grandma back in the day. I don't want to date my grandma. Like, for real. See, you catch that? For real? What 65-year-old says that? But because I've been exposed to so many circumstances and so many different types of people, and like travel and all this other stuff, and who I've known through my life and all that stuff, I don't act my age. And I don't want somebody that acts their age, like if a woman is 62 or 65 or whatever, I want her to act like she's 40 or 30. I want her, in a lot of ways, not everything, but I want her to be active, brain-wise, physical-wise, like everything that would connotate. Like, I just want somebody that doesn't act like my grandma, and doesn't dress like my grandma, and doesn't have her hair done like my grandma. Trust me, I've gone through these dating sites, and they have like this white hair with Aquanet hairspray holding it up and everything. And I'm like, wow, I remember that when my grandma was around. Like, I don't want that. It's a really, really tough thing. People that get older are either a widow or a widower, so their partner has left, and that was the love of their life, and they have no interest in dating again, and or they do have an interest of dating again, but now you're compared to their ex-spouse. Well, my husband would have never done that, or blah, 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 or whatever. I have not been through that, but I've heard about those situations. And then on the other flip side of that coin would be the female who's never been married before, for whatever reason, afraid of commitment or whatever, and is on that same path of not committing to you even. So there's that too. But then the idea of how do you find somebody that's compatible? And so then you start, or I have started thinking about, maybe I should volunteer. Maybe I should volunteer at places, like, or even go to some of these places where people like me go to. I know in my city they have a community pool. And I thought about, joining that place, but it's all old people. It's all retired people. Like, in the middle of the day right now, they would be there. The younger people are off to work. The younger people are, they have responsibilities, and they have all this other stuff that's going on in their life. So you get all these senior citizens, which arguably I am, but I don't look at myself that way. And so when I am immersed into a situation where I have everybody that looks like my grandparents, it's like, I don't belong here. And not only that, but I'm not interested in any of these senior citizens, like I don't know. It's complicated. I don't know what to make of trying to find somebody in the dating market. I don't know. You know, there's a lot of, as I said, dating sites on there, but I'm so frustrated. And it's not just POF. I think there's another dating site or two that I had belonged to for a minute back about 3 years ago, and I came off of it because I just, same way, I wasn't having any luck. And, you know, the whole impetus of those dating sites is to make their bottom line. Like, they're just interested in money. They have no desire for you to meet somebody and go away. Because if you meet somebody and go away, they're losing money. So their desire is to keep you single. and it even dawned on me, you know what? Some of these profiles might be fake. Some of these people don't even exist. Or if they did exist, they came off of the dating site because they met somebody, but yet they kept their profile active. Not the person, but the dating site itself kept their profile active. To give you hope, to breadcrumb you into believing there might be somebody out there for you when in fact there's really not. Or if it is, it's a needle in a haystack. And in order to find that needle, you got to pull your wallet out. So it's like this vicious cycle. And I don't know, I don't have an answer. I don't really have an answer. All I know is the less active you are, obviously, the less people you're going to meet and the more problems you're going to have finding somebody. And that's my biggest major malfunction, is that I'm not active in any type of club. I don't belong to, say, a chess club or, you know, all the different types of clubs that might be out there that they meet once a week or whatever the case is. You know, I'm not going to the mall and doing my walking. Like, I do walk, but I go to a track to do that. And there's not a lot of people there to meet. But I understand senior citizens will go to a mall and they'll walk around the mall 50 times to get their steps. And you can meet somebody potentially there. I don't know. I thought about getting on a bus one day, and I don't even need to ride a bus. But I thought about going to some arbitrary bus stop, parking my truck, getting on a bus to nowhere, and just sitting on a bus for 2 hours or 3 hours, or 2 or 3 different buses. And I figure, well, maybe that's a way to meet somebody. You know, immerse myself into some social gathering, even if it's just a bus. But doing things on your own sucks. Like, I love going to the beach, and that's the one thing I will do on my own. If I can't find somebody, trust me, I'm going to go anyway. But going out to dinner on my own, not a thing. I don't really like that. Going to a movie on my own, don't like that either. I'll do it if I really want to see a movie or I'm keeping up on that, which I haven't lately. I'll still do it, but I don't like it. There are certain activities you can't do alone. How can I go play pool without somebody else? How can I go, you know, I don't know. It's difficult. It's difficult. So you're kind of stuck, well, I am, with 1 foot in and 1 foot out. On one hand, you know, I put myself out there to a certain extent to try and meet somebody. I'll go to the park and strike up conversations, or, you know, this or that or whatever. But then on the other hand, I get ghosted, and then it just begets me not wanting to do that anymore. Like, I'm at a point now where I just don't want to interact with somebody just to get ghosted. Like, it turns me away from it. I don't remember the last time I gave my number out or even engaged somebody in a conversation, which led to giving my number out. I don't remember. It's probably been pushing a year, maybe 9-10 months. But the end result is nothing. So then why put in the effort for nothing in return? Doesn't make any sense. I don't know how other people meet. I really honestly don't. I don't know if there's a better dating website. I don't know if there's a better place to meet somebody. Back in the day, like I said, when I was in my 30s, I'd go to the club, you know, go dancing. And that was usually relatively easy to meet somebody. certain activities that I did back then, you would meet somebody. I don't really have any activities that I do, except, like I said, walking. There are people that are more active at my age, meaning that they've immersed themselves in certain activities or certain groups or certain clubs or whatever to be situated in some type of environment to make it easier to meet somebody. I just can't figure what that would be for me. I don't know. But I do know this. Getting old sucks. Yeah. It is not the easiest to meet anybody. And I don't even mean just dating. I mean other guys. Like, I don't have any male friends. How do male friends meet each other? I've had pretty good conversations in passing with veterans. It never went anywhere as far as, becoming friends, but, the closest I have to an interaction with somebody, another male, would be at Home Depot, and chit-chatting about, shop talk or whatever that we're talking about at that time, and then we part ways. Women are built differently. They could meet at a Walmart, or they can meet at a clothing store and have something in common, and then at the end of the conversation, hey girl, let's exchange numbers, we should go to lunch someday. Oh, that's a good idea. And that's how they meet, and that's how they become friends. That's the start. Men don't do that. Probably some, but I think that's a rarity. So yeah, I don't have the answers. All I can do is come up with possible solutions. Like I said, get on a bus going nowhere. I don't mean like Greyhound, I mean like a local bus or whatever, and try and meet somebody in that situation, or go to the mall, maybe walk the mall like I was mentioning earlier, or try and come up with some type of interest. See, the problem with an interest, there's not a lot of solo type of organizations out there where you can just just show up and end up meeting somebody because you are both interested in even a pool league or something like that. Arguably that's a solitary type of thing, but at the end of the day it's really not. You need somebody else to play against. I don't know. I'm not that interested. There's not anything out there that just grabs me and says, I got to do this on a daily, or I got to do this at least once a week or whatever, and then join a club to have other like-minded people around. I don't have anything like that. And I'm sure there's other people like me too that don't have anything like that. So I don't, as I said, I don't have the answer. But maybe you have some type of experience. Maybe you have a better clue than I do, or a dating site or somewhere to make it easier for people, for senior citizens, for people over, I'm going to say over 60 and over, to somehow get social. Because I know it happens. I know there's people out there that meet in their senior years and become life partners and all that stuff. I know it does happen. It's just daunting to try and figure out how, where, when, why. Those are the questions that I have. But yeah, I think that's about it. That's all I have to say until the next one I come up with. I think the next one I come up with is going to be my most recent experience with dating, which wasn't really dating, but it's a good story. It's an interesting story, nevertheless. It will be entertaining on my take on this certain female that I thought would be my life partner and ended up not being. Yeah. So stay tuned for that story. Later, guys.